This podcast started because my dad tried to win the lottery. I'll explain in a bit, but first, let me introduce the first official episode of the ADHD Content Creators podcast. This is a podcast just about my random stories and tips, like how I accidentally made 70K in my first year of business last year and the number of followers I gained from viral posts. But I'll also be sharing some wild stories about life as an ADHD content creator. I will be sharing some stories later today, but let me know if you want some of the more tangible tips as well. So, I'm your host, Jennifer, aka Vegan Tech Nomad, on all socials. And I have never really done an official podcast before. Like, this setup is so wild. And actually, that's kind of what I teach and what I want to convey to you is that you don't need fancy equipment to get started. Because literally, what I have right now is this leaning. Okay, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you can see this lamp literally leaning over like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I don't know what is wrong with that lamp. I don't have the best studio quality background over here. And this mic was, I don't even know if it's great because if I have to hold it like so close to my mouth like this. And I also have just like my iPhone camera on a tripod on my desk, which I mean, it works. I don't need a fancy podcast mic. I don't need anything. I just wanted to press record and get started. And actually, one of my students who paid like $2,000 for my program was like, Jen, I remember seeing a video of you talking about your stuff while on a train. This was like 6 a.m. on a train to Niagara Falls. And that just always stuck with him because it's like, you don't really need that much to get started. So if you're on the fence with your content creator journey, I challenge you after listening to this podcast episode and all my wild stories to just press record. So today's Yap session is going to be about the origin story. Well, my origin story, hopefully not villain origin story. I'm not trying to be in my villain era, but just like how this content business all started, it's a story that's going to involve being like an alien, being chased, the lottery story I mentioned earlier, and some other wild stories as a content creator from all of my travels because I spent 8 months traveling last year, hence the nomad part of vegan tech nomad. And before I dive in, I just want to remind you to please don't forget to subscribe because it would mean a lot to me and encourage me to keep going. I actually save all of the nice comments that people leave in a wins document. So whenever I get a mean comment, I go back to look at my wins document and I'm like, okay, this makes me feel better. I'm going to keep creating content because it's part of my mission to positively impact as many people as I can. Now, my origin story. So this is actually very shocking to a lot of people, but I was a very shy girl. I moved from Taiwan to Canada at 3 years old. I did not speak a word of English. Now I don't really speak a word of Mandarin, but I'm trying to practice. And this was like at a time where I feel like I was very, I didn't feel confident in myself. I remember in grade one, there was this time I tried to help somebody clean up their toys, and he looked at me like I was an alien when I said stuff to him like, hey, do you want help? Or like all of that. And that was, I think, the first time he's ever heard me spoke because I would never talk. And to add on to that, I am hard of hearing. So it was like I wanted to avoid all the awkward situations where somebody would say something to me and I'd say what like 5 times and it would just be embarrassing. So I would just not talk to anybody. And if people from my grade one class could see me now, maybe they have, I don't know. I think they would be very shocked because I went from that super shy girl who wouldn't talk to anybody, who would annoy her teachers because I wouldn't say excuse me. I would just like keep tapping them and like, you know, I think they got really annoyed with me because I just wouldn't say anything. So what actually happened, like the turning point for me was actually in first or second year university. I was part of this mentorship program because I'm an overachiever and I was like, let me sign up for everything. There was this person, a staff member, and he was like, Jen, you should sign up to be a mentor next year instead of just being a mentee getting these resources. Like, you could be the one to give people these resources. And I remember telling him, like, I am not a leader. Like, I'm still that shy girl. You know, people know me in high school as somebody who just like does the work, who's like super smart because all she does is study, even though that wasn't even true. Like, I never did my homework. And people are shocked when I tell them that because I knew as soon as I get home, I would forget to do my homework. So I actually had to do my homework in school while the teacher was still talking. Because sometimes when they talk, I would tune out. So it's like I do the homework to keep myself busy. So it's like that's why I was kind of shocked that I had ADHD because I was like, oh, I did well in school. You know, I was an overachiever. But it's like the only way I was able to do that was because I was doing my homework and I was taking notes while the teacher was talking because like I just couldn't focus on what they were saying. Like I had to doodle or take notes or do whatever else, and that ended up helping. So anyway, I told this mentor, staff member person of mine, I was like, I can't be a mentor in this program. I'm not a leader. And he said something that kind of like changed my life. He said that a leader is not somebody who just tells other people what to do, that bosses them around, because I don't like doing that. I can do it, but I don't like it. He said a leader leads by example. And there were so many people who looked up to me in university. They were like, Jen, you are so good at this. Like, I want to do what you do, and I would be happy to help them and share resources because I love helping people because it goes back to my mission of positively impacting as many people as I can. And so once I had that shift in mindset, I was like, okay, I'll sign up for this. And I ended up signing up for a lot of extracurriculars in university. And one of them was an education based extracurricular. It was a club and startup that me and a few friends started. And that actually led me to my first official full time job. So, like, not an internship or anything, but like my first big girl job. And that was an education company based in Australia. The way I got that job was so wild because I remember in university, I was like, I want to host fun events. Like, this is so fun to attend. You get a lot of free food. And I asked somebody, how did you host this event? I want to do this as well, but I'm scared. I don't know how to do anything. And they were like, oh, I don't know either. And I was like, wait, what do you mean you don't know? You did all these things. Like, to be honest, even now as a big, quote unquote, big content creator, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, everybody's just making it up as we go. It's just, you have to have the courage to take that first step. And hopefully, all the stories that I'm going to share today is going to give you a little bit of that courage, and my energy will also transfer to you. So, where was I? These ADHD tangents, I can't. Good thing I wrote notes before this so I can get back on track. So, okay, how I got my first big girl job. I actually saw a posting on LinkedIn because remember I had that education startup I started with my friends. I was doing a bunch of competitor research. So I followed this company and like connected with all their staff members because they were our competitors. But they posted a job and I was about to graduate. So I guess they like poached me from my own startup. And I messaged the CEO and founder of this company because it was a small startup. And I was like, should I apply to this? Like, I don't know if I have experience. I'm a recent grad. And he was like, just apply. And then he sent me a message like, hey, are you free in like 30 minutes? Can we just hop on a call? And then after that call, after a written test and after another call, I got hired. All because I shot my shot and I just messaged this random CEO on LinkedIn asking if I should apply because I didn't have the confidence in myself to just go for it. And he had to give me that encouragement. That job actually gave me so much. Like, I had to make TikTok videos as part of it, and my first videos sucked so much. Like, you would be shocked. You think I'm natural on camera now, but like the first video was literally me being all stiff, like talking from a script, and then you can tell the pauses aren't cut out, so it's like kind of awkward, and the video is super long, and I don't know what I was doing. But I had to post as part of my job. And so I posted like up to 5 times a day, but I kind of cheated a little bit because I just filmed a snippet of my like half of my face and put text on screen and slapped a trending sound on, and that was one post. So I'd film it all in one day when I was inspired and just like to check it off my list of to-dos, and just that was my 5 posts for the day. One time we found winning messaging that worked. Like I was posting about, so this company sells courses about tech skills. One of the skills was data analysis. So I took that course because this is where the lottery part comes in. My dad is obsessed with trying to win the lottery. He tries to look at correlations and probability. Like he tried to make me learn Python and all these coding languages and Tableau, dashboard stuff because he's like, Jen, you need to help me analyze the lottery numbers so we can figure out what is gonna help us win the lottery. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if this is actually even helpful, but like I'll learn some data analysis, I guess. So I took the data analysis course that my company was offering. And then because I was also working for this company, I made videos about my experience as a student. And those videos popped off because my project was about tracking my own life. And people loved the dashboards I was making. So we got kind of like TikTok famous from it. So much so that when I went viral on my own account, people were like, hey, you're that girl from that data course company. And actually, when we went viral, I grew the company's account to like 50K followers on TikTok. And I was feeling sad because I was like, I should have done this for my own personal account. Because if I ever leave the company, which I will tell you about that later, oh, I can't even ask you to remind me. So let me write that down. So when I left, okay, no, that's spoilers. I'll talk about that later. But basically, I was sad because 50K followers is a lot. You could make basically a living as a creator doing that. And so I was like, let me start posting on my personal account. I posted running vlogs for like 3 months. They did not go anywhere because my videos still kind of sucked. And I was trying to be someone I'm not. I Vlogs were what got me started, but I feel like it wasn't really like it was so hard for me to make because like I wanted to be a travel influencer, which I figured out later through experience that it was not as it's cracked up to be. So I wanted to get free hotels, free flights, film cute travel videos and then get free travel because I travel a lot and I love traveling. But it was just so freaking hard to go back through your phone footage and like edit all those clips together because I just got bored. It's like boring admin work. I didn't want to do it unless I was really passionate about the wherever I traveled to and I wanted to share stuff about it. So that's why my username is a vegan tech nomad because I wanted to post about vegan food that I had and the digital nomad adventures I went on, but it was just so hard to edit those videos. Meanwhile, my company account had like 50K followers because all I had to do was film my face and film my laptop screen. It was so easy to pump out those videos and it was fun. So I decided to do something similar for my personal brand because I was like, I need to grow my own personal account. I know I can do it because I've done it for the company already. So I started filming about my life tracking stuff because a lot of my friends said it was cool. So I knew there was something there, but it didn't pop off on TikTok at all. Like it didn't get that many views or likes or comments. And I knew I wanted to start a creator personal brand business. So one day, me and my friend just sat down and I scheduled all of my old TikTok videos to be posted on Instagram as well. And my Instagram account was so dead. Actually, low-key tea, but my username, Vegan Tech Nomad, my ex got really mad at me because he wanted me to change the username, but I refused. And that's not the reason why we broke up, but also kind of the reason. But yeah, anyway, so when I scheduled it on Instagram, 1 week after the post was scheduled, my phone blew up. Like the same post that did not do well on TikTok blew up on Instagram and basically launched my whole business. And what's really interesting is that post got me like 20K followers or something. But when I posted about it another time in a more entertainment style instead of a, hey, this is what I do, it only got a few thousand followers. So that was really interesting. Both of these times, videos got like millions of views, but the difference in followers I got was very interesting. Anyway, so last year I was traveling as I usually do. And sorry, this is getting to be a very long origin story. 15 minutes. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me speed this up a little bit. There's just so many cool stories. Like I have not even gotten to the best parts. But last year, I was in the middle of traveling when my boss asked me, "Hey, can we hop on a call?" And I was like, "Uh-oh." So we hopped on a call and I was laid off. I was just thinking to myself, like, thank goodness my video went viral and I started building my own content business on the side because, like, it's really hard to job search especially for like a remote job that lets you travel when you're in the middle of traveling for months. Like this was on my 5 month trip. I was not going to be home until the end of the year. So I just decided to go full time on my own business. I was making 6K Canadian dollars before tax in with my previous job, and right after I was laid off, I went ham on my own business. I recorded a course and launched it in like 3 weeks, and I remember that month, August 2024, I made $6,000 in one day. And that's how much I used to make per month. So August was like just mind blowing to me, very eye opening. And I was like, wow, I need to, like, there's something here. And if you think back to it, when I was first posting on Instagram and I had 0 followers really, sometimes my posts would show up on my friends' feeds. One of them would send me links to my own post and be like, "What are you doing here?" Like, I got roasted a little bit. I know it comes from a good place because he was trying to help me improve. He's like, "You need to change the call to action, you need to change the hook, you need to do all of this stuff." But it was like kind of like a roasty way where it's like, "This sucks," like, "Haha, what are you doing?" Like, try to be a little content creator. Like I tried to be like, okay, this is like a way to help me improve, but it still didn't feel good, right? And then I went viral and you know the rest. And actually, in when I was remote working, I I have this story here. I don't know how it's related, but I just want to tell it. So basically, I remember part of my like I travel a lot for not for work, but like I'd work remotely and travel. And I remember one time I went to San Francisco to visit a few friends, and I wanted to take my friend to this vegan sushi place. When we exited the train station, there was some guy who started chasing us. And we were so scared that we ran right into the sushi place. And I think we lost him, and the sushi was really good. It was like one of the best vegan sushis I've ever had in my life. But yeah, I just wanted to put that story out there because I wanted to tell this story as a video that I post on my feed, but it's so hard to go back through my camera roll to find pictures and videos of that sushi place. They actually set the sushi on fire right in front of us, and it tasted very good. But yeah, like I just need that story to be out there, okay? Now, another time, this was mind blowing how it all connects, okay? So, another time, I went to Toronto and somebody who followed me said that, "Oh, I'm from Toronto too, let's meet up." So we met up, and this person works for a creator based company. And literally last month, she texted me, like, "Hey, you're a VIP at our event, like, please come by." So I flew to LA for this event, and this event was like big. It's called Collab Fest, and I saw some big name creators that I had been following on Instagram for years. Like before I even started my content business, these were the people whose videos I watched that helped me improve my videos. And so I went there and I talked to them, and one of them was like, "Jen, you ask really good questions. Like, you should start a podcast. Like, if do you have one? Like, I'd love to be on it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, just to hear this from somebody who I've been watching for years was surreal." And that's also kind of why I'm starting this podcast. Another reason is I actually met somebody from Reddit because I don't know why I was on Reddit. I was like looking at the productivity threads to see how I could help people, and then somebody messaged me, we met up, and she told me about how she wanted to be a digital nomad, so she was searching for digital nomad podcasts. And she found one, and after 6 months purchased that program, the digital nomad creator program, for like $4,000 or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should start a podcast, but maybe this is a distraction because I have this whole matrix that I run all my projects by because I get shiny object syndrome way too bad. So I now run all my projects through that matrix to make sure it actually aligns with what I want to do. And luckily, this podcast did make it through that prioritization matrix. I can share that in more future episodes if you want. Just let me know because I don't know if this stuff is interesting to you guys. Because, like, there's like the Notion templates and the technical stuff, and then there's also like the fun stories. But okay, let me get back to the story. So, yeah, in LA, I went to this event and met so many cool people, and some of them said yes to being a podcast guest, and they are huge people with like huge audiences. So I'm really excited for that. And that would not have happened if I didn't do my content business and didn't meet up with people from like that person from Toronto who invited me. Also, in my LA trip, I met up with this person who went viral around the same time as me. And he went viral because he tracked his time every 30 minutes for like the past, I think since 2018. How many years is that? I can't do the math. At least 2 years. So he also went viral. So I found him and I was like chatting him up on DMs. So when I visited LA where he's from, we met up and I actually he's from LA and I've only been to LA like once, but I was showing him around like I was a local and he was a tourist. It was really funny. But yeah, I met up with him. I also met up with this other vegan couple I met on my travels in Japan, and it was just, they're so wise. Like the conversations I have with people, it just really makes me be like, life is about other people. It's about spending time with other people who energize you. Because I'm not going to remember all the hours I spent on work stuff, but I'm going to remember the fun conversations I had with people and like all these stories I'm telling you, they're like somehow related to other people, right? So, anyway, I think what I'm trying to say is my whole origin story, I want you to leave with the sense that things that don't feel connected can actually be connected. Like you just have to trust the process. Like that startup that I started in university with a few friends, I didn't know that would lead me down this path, but it did. And I call that, the path of yes. Because when you say yes to things that you enjoy, even if you don't have a long-term plan for it, you will just end up doing more things you enjoyed. Because I remember in university, I majored in psychology, but if you don't want to be a therapist, they kind of push you down into the business marketing thing. And I remember scheduling a lot of boring posts for social media, but I said yes to doing that even though I didn't want to. And people saw that I was doing that, and then they kept asking me to do that for them as well. So then I just got trapped down this path of saying yes to things that I didn't really like. So now I only try to say yes to things that I like. And I teach this in my life tracking course, but everything is a default no. And unless it meets specific criteria, then I will say yes. And that criteria has to be related to my life North Star metric, which is like my whole mission in life, which is to positively impact more people. And that's also kind of why this podcast name is ADHD Content Creator. And it's like related to business and content creation instead of just life tracking and productivity, because if I help other people with their businesses and they use their businesses to help even more people, it just like magnifies the scale of people that I can positively impact instead of just like helping one or two people with their productivity. So I also named it ADHD Content Creator because the SEO, like if somebody who doesn't even know who Vegan Tech Nomad is, they search like content creator ADHD, there's not really a lot out there except for this podcast, which is why I'm making it. So, my takeaway from my super long origin story, thank you for sticking with me, is to trust the process. I'm curious to learn what your key takeaway from all of that is, from me being the super shy girl that everybody thought was an alien who couldn't speak English to basically being seen by millions of people around the world. I'm curious to hear what your takeaway is, so feel free to let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or if you are listening on Spotify. Just transmit your thoughts to me via vibes or something. Now, the stories. Oh my gosh, this is going to be my favorite part of this podcast. So, the stories that I have from my content business. Like when I went viral, like obviously a lot of people follow me and they recognize my face. I show my face a lot in my videos. I went to Sydney, Australia for a random networking event that I almost didn't even attend, but my partner wanted to go, so we went. And this person came up to me being like, "You're Vegan Tech Nomad. You're that girl on Instagram who does Notion templates." And I was like, wait, what? That was the first time I've ever been recognized in public in like this was Australia. This is so far from where I am in Vancouver. And I was like, "Oh, okay, like I feel like a celebrity right now." And then he's like, "Yeah," and then he posts out his Instagram on his phone. And what is so funny is that it showed that he didn't even follow me. And when we saw that, we were just like staring at each other in the awkward silence. And he was like, "Oh, I think I unfollowed you. I don't remember why." And then he refollowed me. And now I see his posts all the time on LinkedIn. He is doing amazing things. But yeah, that was just a really funny story because, like, I tell this to people all the time. Like, people show me and it's like they know me, but they don't even follow me. Like, it's mind blowing. And during that trip to Australia, I also went to Melbourne, and my partner and I were playing badminton on a random Tuesday night. And I come out of the washroom, and I think she came out of the washroom. So she came out of the washroom and she saw me and she's like, "Hey, you're that Notion girl from Instagram." And I was like, "Wait, what?" In Melbourne, Australia, which is so far away from North America and Vancouver, where I'm based, I was like, "Oh, damn, okay." And then she invites me and my partner to play badminton with her and her friends, which is so nice of her. And I was in Melbourne for quite a few weeks. So every single week we would play badminton together and hang out and play board games and stuff sometimes. And now I'm going back to Australia because some of those friends have a wedding coming up and I'll be attending their wedding. And all of that was possible because someone came out of the washroom and recognized me, which is like it's wild when you think about it. Now, also on that long 5 month trip, I went to Vietnam, and I usually don't post where I am. Like once I left Vietnam, I started posting a little bit about how I was in Vietnam because I saw a story by an influencer once and she was getting stalked when she posted about her going to the different countries. So now I don't really post where I am until like after I've left the country. There are some interesting stories I have from that, especially in Bangkok, but let me tell the Vietnam one first. So I was in Vietnam and some people replied to my stories being like, "Hey, I'm also based in Vietnam. Like my whole family has a vegan restaurant. You should come by." And I was like, "Okay, bet." So I booked a ticket back there and I am going to visit that person and we are going to yap about content and vegan stuff and just like fun things. And I'm very excited for it because we're both ADHD and it's just going to be a really fun yap session. And that is what I prioritize, like yapping with friends, spending time with loved ones, because in psychology class, I learned that is the best predictor of longevity and a long, satisfying life, more than exercising or not smoking or like anything else. So I knew this data and I saw the proof right in front of my eyes when I was tracking my happiness score versus time spent with other people versus time spent at work. So this is a sign because that couple I met in Japan, who we met up again in LA, they said that they spent their 20s super burnt out working. And while they don't regret it because that means they can enjoy their 30s more, they have more money to spend. It's like they don't really remember like a whole decade of their lives because they were just working. But they will always remember the conversations we had in Japan, the conversations we had when we hung out together in LA. Like I just got chills thinking about that. Like life is really about other people and like my time is limited, right? I only have 24 hours in a day. Half of that time is spent sleeping or doing some weird stuff I don't even know. But actually I do know. I can just check my time tracking which is on 24/7. That's why it vibe checks me and that's why I do it because I need the vibe check. But when you look at my time, it's limited. That's why I want to start this podcast. That's why I wanted to create this content business because then I can impact so many more people. Like, while I would love to have a one on one conversation with people like you, I would love to hear about what you're struggling with, how I can help. But it's just not possible, especially if I want to impact a lot of people, which is why, if you're listening, I really appreciate you giving me your time. And as the reward, I will tell you about how I was super shook in Bangkok. So, this story, like I was literally walking around in Bangkok, being super confused, looking at Google Maps, everything was in Thai. I was like, where am I even going? And I walked past this mall on the way to this other place that I was going to. And I get an Instagram DM, and somebody was like, not to be creepy, but like, did you just walk past this mall? And I was like, yes, what is happening? And okay, it was like a normal person. I did get some creepy DMs. Like sometimes people send me videos of meat and whatever because they see vegan in my username. And then I reply like, hey, you know, I've watched worse videos than this, right? Like that's the whole reason I'm vegan because I've seen slaughterhouse footage. And then they reply back like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't expect you to see this. And I was like, okay, just because I have a big account, which isn't even that big, like 70K followers, doesn't mean I don't check my DMs. Like I have full on long conversations with people via DMs because like I'm just curious about people's lives, and that's why I majored in psychology. But anyway, this guy DMs me like, I just saw you, like I live near here. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, like was I hope I wasn't doing anything weird. Like I don't remember. I was just walking and like looking at Google Maps on my phone. And he said, like, he offered to have his driver take me around, which was super nice of him. And I just didn't have time on that trip to like be driven around. The trip was already almost ending, but I took his recommendation and went to Benchakitty Park, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's one of the parks and it's beautiful. Absolutely worth it because everybody goes to Lumpini Park with the Komodo dragons, and I did go there and I saw it, but I thought it was kind of overrated. Like I much prefer Benchakitty Park. It was so beautiful. I took such beautiful sunset pictures that my sister was like, "I need you to send me this picture right away so I can post it on my Instagram and pretend I was there." She didn't do that, but like it was how good and how beautiful that place was. Okay, so yeah, I wrote a note here in my show notes being like, okay, you need to stay sock safe because when you're a big account, people will recognize you and like you can't just post where you're at in case you get stalkers. So that's why I actually have two different accounts. I have a personal account and a content account. And part of the reason I keep it separate is because sometimes the DMs get clogged and then I can't see my friends who I'm trying to make plans with or trying to message, but also because I can be my number one supporter. So every time I post on my brand account, Vegan Tech Nomad, I go to my personal account and then I like the post, my own video on my brand account. Because like, if you're not going to support yourself, like, how are you going to expect other people to do it, right? And that's kind of like how I always started because I created the support network I needed. I had a bunch of friends who, oh my gosh, okay, I didn't write the story down, but it's so good. I can't believe I forgot it. So, I have a friend who is a finance content creator and another friend who is a running content creator. And it's so cool because literally July last year, actually July 2023 or something, we were meeting up and neither of us had any followers, and we were just talking about content. It's important to have a support network. And every time we posted, even though we had like no followers, we would like each other's posts and we would comment, we would engage, and it just felt so supportive when you get that notification that somebody liked and commented, and it's like, yay, and it's your friend, and it's like, oh, you appreciate it so much. And now, a year later, that finance niche friend, she has 20K followers on TikTok because she posted consistently. That running friend, he has like millions of views on his videos on TikTok. When, okay, at first when he was posting, he was not himself. So I gave him some advice to just like bring out your natural energy, like be yourself more, post the content that you like how I was trying to post travel content, but I didn't even like editing travel videos. So when I started posting videos that I felt more comfortable with after a period of experimentation, it went viral. And the same thing happened to him. Actually, I got travel content creation opportunities. So there was this travel company that reached out to me to sponsor me, and they paid me like $2,000 or something. But the entire time I was making content for them, I was so stressed because I was like, am I gonna get the right shot? I only have one take at this. Because, like, once you leave the country, it's like you can't go back and reshoot, right? And, like, my phone was just a lot of photos and videos, and I felt like I couldn't enjoy my time there. So after that, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's good that I didn't get into content creation for travel. Me as a personal brand, sometimes the travel expenses, like when I went to LA for a content creation event, it can be a business expense. But otherwise, I just prefer to relax and chill when I travel, you know? But anyway, now all three of us in that group that met July 2023, we all have our content businesses now. It is so surreal what consistency can do, but not just consistency, improving what you're posting. And that's why in my program, I make people post like 30 posts, and some of them do. There was one student in my program, she posted so many posts. Some of them sucked, and she's like, "Oh, I'm climbing Cringe Mountain." I have her as a podcast guest coming up, so I'm really excited for that. She's like, "I'm climbing Cringe Mountain, like I know this sucks, but I'm gonna post it anyway." And she got like $6,000 in sponsorships. Like, oh my gosh, this her story is amazing. I will tell you more about that. But the other story that I wanted to tell is when I was laid off. So I have this in my show notes. I wrote crying Japan accounting because I was literally in a random hotel bed in Japan, like crying because I was stressed out about not basically at the end of the tax year or whatever, you have to pay all the taxes that you owed because it's not like deducted from your own paycheck because it's like your own business. So I owed like 11K or something like that. And I also had to pay the accounting fees, the bookkeeping fees. And I was like, oh my God, I'm literally traveling right now. I don't have access to like call my bank or anything. So I was crying. I was so stressed out. There were all these like fees and stuff. And thankfully, I did have enough in my bank account to cover that, but it was just a stressful time. And I felt like nobody could understand me. And part of my goals for starting this podcast is like, hopefully, now you feel like there's somebody who is there in your corner with you because I just felt so alone. And it's also like ADHD content creation as well because like it's so hard to keep track of things sometimes. My like I don't have a content calendar. All these content creation courses, they're like, you need to have a calendar. That's how you stay consistent. I don't stay consistent that way. I stay consistent using psychology, like having a cue or a trigger that is like an alarm or calendar reminder or just something. And that triggers my action, which is to make a video post. And that triggers the reward, which is just the satisfaction of having a video or like being able to check that off my to-do list. And then the last part is reflecting. So like figuring out which part of the system worked or not. So if I'm constantly So if I'm constantly ignoring these cues or triggers, like let's say I have a calendar invite to myself to be like, hey, it's time to post. If I'm constantly ignoring that, it's time to change the system to be like an alarm or an accountability buddy I can't ignore, something that improves to make me take action for sure. So that's what I use. I can dive more into it in a future podcast episode, but basically, I cannot plan. I did not plan to make this podcast, right? I'm just following the vibes. I feel like that's very ADHD. But there are systems in place that I can now use to make my business work for me instead of being stressed all the time thinking I need to do this or that when all of that stuff is like boring admin work built for neurotypical brains and like I just cannot. Like I'm months behind on my emails. Except not the important ones. I always get those answered. But I also have in my show notes here accountant story skull emoji because oh my God. I had an accountant that, well, I don't know what happened to him, but he stopped answering all my emails. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I need to do my taxes, I need to do all of this stuff. And like, he didn't ask for any of my receipts or anything. He was like, okay, just tell me the number. And I was like, okay, I guess this is how it works. And then he disappeared. I was like, okay, what is going on? I emailed him a bunch, but then I checked my spam folder. In the spam folder was an email from his sister, and there was nothing in the email except for one image attachment. So I opened the image attachment and it said, like, unfortunately, this accountant, her brother, is hospitalized because he had a stroke. They don't know when he'll wake up or when he will return to work. And I was like so worried about him to the point where I was searching his name and obituary because I was like, is he gonna be okay? Like, what is happening? What do I do now? So I had to, like, I also don't know if it was real or not because it was sent to spam. It was an image attachment. There was like no text in the email. So I don't know what happened, but like he just didn't respond to me. I hope he's okay. So I had to get a new accountant who like saved me, but the new accountant is really mad at my previous accountant because apparently he didn't really do anything right. And this new accountant like actually asked for all my statements and everything. So then I had to pay like the accounting fees to fix and refile all the stuff that was wrong. So anyway, that's why there's a skull emoji next to this note where it's like accountant story because I cannot believe the things that happen in my life. Okay, The other thing, oh my gosh, okay, I love this story because it like just shows how important mindset is. And I promise this is the last story because I know this podcast episode is getting kind of long, but knowing you, you're probably listening at 2 times speed because that's what I always do. I go for a run or a walk or a gym session and I listen to podcasts at 2 times speed. So 40-minute long podcasts are actually 20 minutes long and it's chill. And it's so much more entertaining when there's like a story that you can learn from instead of like, this are some business tips. Like, I don't know. I can do more of those if you want. Just let me know. But anyway, this last story. I met this millionaire on Threads. We hopped on a call. I did not think he would give me the time of day, but he did. And it was, I was just shocked. He told me, like, he gave me so much confidence because he was like, Jen, you can achieve like all your financial goals. You can do this, you can do that. I didn't think it was possible. But he was like, if this millionaire who knows so much is telling me I can do it, I'm like, oh, damn, like what is he seeing that I'm not? And I also met this other person who had so much confidence. I'm trying to get her to be a guest on this podcast. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss this episode. But she has millions of followers online, but she started from nothing. She came from basically poverty and now she has millions of dollars. She made $1 million from one of her courses. And she told me she actually feels bad if people don't purchase her course because she's so confident that this course can help people get to where they want to be. That if they don't purchase, she feels bad for them. And I was like, this is the type of confidence that I need in my life because I am always undercharging. I'm not confident. Like if I'm not confident in my own offers, why do I expect other people to be? Part of the reason why I started my ADHD content creator program and courses and stuff to teach people is, first of all, I delayed it for a long time because I was like, oh, people are gonna think I'm just another guru who wants to make quick money. Even though like if people don't get value from my courses, I refund them right away. So there was all this fear and self-doubt. But somebody told me, Jen, this knowledge you're sharing to me right now in this one-on-one call is so good that it would be such a shame if you didn't share it with more people. Like, why are you gatekeeping? And I was like, wait, you're right. Like, my whole mission is to help more people. Like, why am I stopping myself? There's so many more stories like that I have, but I'm curious what your key takeaway from all of these stories from random people I meet in my travels, thanks to my content is, because for me, the key takeaway is actually that content gives you more opportunities than just money or fame. Like, sure, I can talk about how I made like 70K USD last year in revenue, and I can talk about all these things, but like all these stories I shared with you, it's like I feel so fulfilled because I just met all these cool people and there's like they share their cool stories and insights and I just feel so inspired. And I hear about my friends who like hate their jobs and they're miserable looking for other jobs, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I like how your companies contribute to your insurance, your retirement, everything, and you have guaranteed income every month, but it's like I cannot just be miserable at a job that I spend a lot of my time at. Like, I'd rather have the income inconsistency and be in control of my own fate than be stuck in a miserable job, because that has happened to me before. It was not a fun time. I felt like I did not have any control over anything. So even though I cried in that bed in Japan because I was stressed over accounting and taxes, I'd much rather have that. So it's like choose your heart. So now this is the outro. Wow, I just checked the time. This was like 43 minutes. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sticking with me because I know this is a long episode, but I just sometimes I go off on tangents and yap too much. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I'd still love to hear the feedback so I can improve and make this podcast even more enjoyable and enriching for you. So the outro, thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe. And if you want to contact me, you can find me at vegantechnomad.com or vegantechnomad on all of my socials. And I will see you for the next episode. Bye.